We'll now look at the major themes or the story about Jesus that is told in 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Of course, Jesus is the same expression, Lord Jesus Christ, that is so popular within the Pauline material. But Jesus is also the Son of God, who is killed by Jews, but raised from the dead and will come from heaven with all his saints. So this very interesting aspect of Paul's eschatology. Eschatology is the idea of what one thinks about the end of this age. The word eschatology comes from the word eschaton, and the eschaton is the last age, and so the study of the last things, or the study of the last days. This is particularly a major issue in 1 Thessalonians 4, 13 through 5 through 11. One should take a real close look at this particular passage. It's been a popular passage to support the view that Christians will be raptured and will be taken up to heaven at the end of the age. However, what I think is oftentimes overlooked or not understood about Paul's language here is that Paul is using language borrowed from Jewish apocalyptic literature, and that Paul is envisioning here the return of Jesus, but he's casting it in the light of a victor, like somebody who has been victorious in war or in a battle. One of the things that the Thessalonians would be aware of, and that Paul is making use of, is this concept of when a military victory has been won. Let's say, for instance, that a city, such as Thessalonica, was being defeated. The men of the city would go out, would engage the oncoming forces. They would meet at some battlefield. After the battle had been won, say by the oncoming victor, the oncoming forces, then the people in the city, they would go out of the city to welcome the general, to welcome the forces, and then bring them back into the place where, into the city. In other words, this was a way in which the city could be spared by the citizens coming out, meeting the conquering forces, and then bringing them into the city, welcoming them in. Well, in 1 Thessalonians, Paul envisions Jesus having defeated the evil forces in the air. That's where demonic forces, spiritual forces exist. And then the citizens, that is the Christians, will go out and meet Jesus in the air, meet him where he has defeated his forces. And there they will welcome him back to earth, and that's where he will reign, and Christians will be with Jesus forever. The passage is not really talking about a rapture in the sense of leaving earth and going and being with Jesus forever. It has this idea of meeting Jesus to welcome him as the victor, as the one who has defeated all evil forces, and welcoming him now back to his place of reign. Jesus is our deliverer, that is, the deliverer of Christians from the coming wrath of God upon all unrighteousness. The Lord Jesus directs the way of Christians and can cause them to increase and abound in love and endurance, and he also gives them peace. The Lord is the avenger of those who are mistreated, and he will avenge on his day of wrath. And so we see that in 1st Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, there's a strong emphasis, strong concern of depicting Jesus in this role as the agent of the final age, the agent who brings God's wrath. And so that's where the stress seems to be, particularly for this letter. We also see the encouragement for Christians to stand firm in the Lord. This idea of being faithful to Jesus, standing firm in one's belief, in one's commitment, in one's allegiance to Jesus. And Christians are loved by the Lord, and Jesus has given them eternal comfort giving them a good hope. He's encouraged them, and he strengthens their heart so that there is a present activity of Jesus, not just someone who will come at the end, but he is already operative now. And finally, Christians are to be imitators of the Lord. So this imitation of the Lord's faithfulness, this imitation of the Lord's dedication, this dedication of the Lord's righteousness, these are things that the Christians are to imitate, and they are to spread the word of the Lord. So this encouragement to share the news about Jesus is also found in Thessalonians. And that's a little bit about the background, or a little bit more about the story about Jesus, the themes about Jesus that seem to be most important in 1st and 2nd Thessalonians.